see you guys in the dark.
I was a fresh 21-year-old and had recently rediscovered a love for dance, started enjoying concerts and festivals. I had attended my first festival at 20 years old and had the most amazing time volunteering and meeting people. It was a last minute and unexpected situation that year, but after the amazing experience I had, I was hooked. At the time, I was extremely naive and obliviously new to this kind of scene. So the next year, I had cut off the friends I'd gone to festival with before, but still had friends of friends that went that I got along with really well and had a good memory with. So even though I was going on my second year at the same festival, I was going solo and just camping with friends of friends, which I suppose was the beginning of the problem. I got going kind of late, so when I got to the festival, the lines to get in were extremely long. I packed diligently, but the service wasn't great, and I was having a hard time contacting the friends that I was camping with. By the time I found them and had set up, it was already dark. It was a newer but pretty large festival, and have a really bad sense of direction. In future years, I learned to bring a battery or solar lights and obnoxious decorations because of this night. It was also in a different location that year, so unfamiliar with where I was camped, with all of my surroundings. Second part, I screwed up. My ex-roommate Tom and his ex-girlfriend Gina were the ones that I was closest to. Tom was bringing some special acid for me as a kind of apology for not sticking up for me in a roommate situation. We all went to the first show together, but all got really high so fast. I took too much, and I knew it pretty quickly, so I knew the night was going to go sideways real fast. But by the time I realized it, Tom and Gina had wandered off, leaving me completely alone. I tried to find my way back to my tent, thinking that I would lay down for a bit and just be okay, but I couldn't remember how to get to it or where I was. It was dark, and I was starting to panic, being that I was high as shit and didn't know where anyone was. I also didn't know how to get to my campsite or anything. I was in a crop top and jean shorts in a high desert at midnight, so it was starting to get really cold. I wandered over to the disco area because it was the first thing that I had found. Had a legit disco ball and all. I'm wandering around and see this woman in the most unusual clothing, so I went to go talk to her. I genuinely to this day don't know if this person was real. That's how messed up I was. We ended up wandering around, trying to find my campsite. When we reached the RV car camp area, this man, who's probably in his 30s with glow sticks, asks us if we want any. We say yeah. She goes first, and as soon as it's on her wrist, she goes skipping away. I call out to her to wait, but she doesn't stop. The man looks directly at me and says, "Are you okay? Do you think you can find your friend?" I stupidly said, "Oh, I don't really know her. I can't find my campsite, and she was just helping me out. But oh well." He tells me that I remind him a lot of his little sister. I wouldn't want her running around like this and lost. Look, my buddy and I are going to watch XYZ shows, and I wouldn't feel right just leaving you. So you could stay in his RV for a few hours to sleep it off. Obviously, I was way too high, too young, and naive to see where this was going, and I stupidly complied and followed him. It was fine at first. It was a toy hauler, so the back end was like a U-Haul that stayed open. The first guy put on an album that I'd previously loved as a teenager, but now can still barely stand listening to. Tucked me in and then left. I didn't see his buddy at that point. Fast forward God knows how many hours. I've been tripping out to this music and actually been getting to the point of, okay, hopefully they get back soon. When they got back, the first thing the guy told me was I looked like his sister, climbing on top of me while I was half conscious, kissing my neck and touching me. Then I felt the second one, and his hands. I was still so high and out of it, but immediately told them to stop, that I wasn't in a place for that. They got angry at me, and the one who'd got me there was the most frightening. I saw his eyes change in that moment, and knew that I was fucked if I couldn't get away. It didn't matter how high I was. I just needed to get away from them. I don't even recall formulating a plan. I remember the main man saying, "We helped you. Now you owe us." I slammed my knee into his groin. I may have forgotten that he was on top of me at that point. All I remember is running for my life into the very prickly bushes, not knowing where I was going, but I was desperately just running away. The second man seemed a bit nervous about the whole thing, and didn't do much except for touch me while the other one held me down with the weight of his body. I met a couple of kind souls that calmed me down when I was completely freaking out, crying, covered in dirt and thorns. They gave me a safer space. I didn't sleep that night, as I could no longer trust the kind stranger, but I also couldn't find my camp. It was 10 yards away, as I discovered the very next day. Thinking back on it now, I'm pretty sure the only reason that I got away was because they were on something. I had never met guy number two before, so I don't know anything about him, but the one that I did seemed pretty crazy and very amped and high and out of it. And yes, I know the whole thing was stupid of me. I was not even a month into 21 years old. I had very little life experience at that point in time. I'm heavy into LARPing, and for those who don't know what it is, we basically spend the weekend in the woods dressed as medieval fantasy characters and interact with each other. I go out on these events with my friends and my partner, and we meet more friends when we're there. We meet all types of people in these events. 99.9% are absolute angels. Before the event had started, a guy, we'll call him Greg, swung by the tent while I was setting it up. My partner and friend were setting up the secondary tent up a path and couldn't see me at all. There were 5 other people to my right. I had never met this guy before, but as soon as he said hi, I had a really bad feeling. He was around 5'10", obese, a neckbeard basically, that would fit the description of an incel. He approaches me, asks me if I'm here alone. I tell him no. I'm here with people, and I don't mention my boyfriend or my friend directly. He asks me if I'm a gamer, to which I say yes. From there on, he starts rambling on about Ark Survival, which is a game I personally have above 3,000 hours on. He tells me blatantly wrong information, misnames the dinosaurs, tells me stuff that's impossible to do in the game, even with mods. And every time I correct him, I can see he looks to be getting even more annoyed with me. I end the conversation, saying they have to go back to setting up my tent, and then he leaves. Fast forward to around 10 or 11 p.m. The event has started, which means any mention of the real world, such as cars, TV, pop culture, things like that, all of that is forbidden by a rule called decorum. We're playing a campfire game with my friends and my partner, and the guy comes by to sit with us. He sits next to me. I move over. He scoots closer to me. I move over. He scoots over again. Eventually, I get up and sit next to my friend. As we play the game, he keeps referring to the real world and to video games, so we tell him either to leave or to make an effort and speak properly. He leaves. The next day, I go up to a trail for fake hunting, like gathering resources and whatnot. As I come back down towards the village, in the middle of the woods with no camps I can hide in, he's there waiting for me on the trail. He then asks me if I would like to go get a coffee or something sometimes, to which I answer, no thank you. As we go down the trail, I tell him I have to collect plants for my potions, so if he can excuse me, I'll be going back to the village to leave my bow and collect my basket. I'm walking fast. He follows me, grabs my arm, and tells me I could come with you. You, me, alone in the woods, looking for plants. That looks like the perfect scenario. I freak out and walk very fast down the trail back to the village. My neighbors happen to see me and look very concerned. They ask if I need any help. I tell them in an honesty, which is a code to say, take me seriously, this isn't part of the game, that this dude is being very creepy and following me. They take their weapons, which are foam weapons, and tell him to go fuck off before they carve him a new asshole. I stay with them for a few minutes before chilling with my friends. Night comes. We're having tons of fun. Stuff is happening in terms of fighting and encounters. Then at around midnight, I decide to go to the bathroom. At this point, I haven't seen the guy since around 7 p.m. As I come back from the bathroom, in complete darkness, this guy jumps from a bush and pins me against a tree. He then tells me that he's not proud of me, that I've been leading him on, and he doesn't understand why I would hold another guy's hand and hug 3 other guys, but not him. I tell him I hold my fiance's hand, and I do hug my friends, but he's neither one of those. I also tell him to stop his BS, in all honesty, to which he answers, but what if in all honesty I want a kiss? Huh? Just a little kiss, and then you can go. I yell no, and then I try to hit him away. My friends, who were right on the other side of the bridge separating us, heard me scream. They took their weapons, called upon my neighbors, and around 10 people came careening down the bridge to help. The guy had let go, and then turned to my rescuers, saying he was just interrogating me for information concerning the demons, our foes. My friends, who have seen the guy be an asshole before, tell him not to move, that they're going to get the owner of the LARP to deal with him. He tried to persuade them, but my neighbors had told him to sit down, or he would be visiting death's altar before he can move. I'm taken away by my fiance, who is very worried and concerned about what happened. The owner comes. I explain to him exactly what happened. He takes Greg outside the play to discuss. From what I heard, he was kindly asked not to come back for future events. I live in a regional city in Australia. It's relatively big, but once you leave the center of the city, it's pretty much all bushland and trees. When I was about 7 to 8 years old, my school took all the kids to a campground about 45 minutes out of town. It was a one-night trip. We were all really excited about it. After a long day of archery, basketball, tennis, and all the other things that you can do in camps, we had dinner and went to bed. I distinctly remember laughing and messing around with all my friends before we fell asleep around 11 p.m. The next part I had forgotten for years, until only recently it came back up in my mind, and now it's the clearest part of my memory. I used to be terrified of the dark, and used to wake up multiple times at night. This instance had woke me up around 2 a.m. I remember this because I have a watch that is very special to me, and for some reason, looking at it and checking the time comforted me in the dark. When I woke up, felt like something was off. Not wrong, but off. I looked around my cabin, saw nothing of interest, but then I was struck with an intense feeling to just look out the window. Our room was on the second level of this cabin complex, so when you looked out the window, you had to look down to see the ground directly below you. When looking out the window, I saw nothing, and just when I started to look away, something had caught my eye. I could have sworn I saw something right below the window, almost out of sight. If you were simply looking forward, I looked down and I saw someone. Not the average person, more like a tweaker. He was tall, maybe 6'3", 6'4", and his skin looked like he had just fallen hard on cement. He was covered in scrapes and grazes, and his hair had been all buzzed off. He looked about 40 years old, but I think he may have been in his mid-20s, based on his super skinny build. He wore a dirty black hoodie and black jeans that looked like motorbike pants. He also wore what looked like a mix of a fedora and a cowboy hat. When I had looked down, his eyes caught mine instantly. He was staring into the window. He didn't move his head there when he saw me. No, he had been actively staring into that window before I was even there. He stared with such wide eyes, like he was straining all the muscles in his face to pop his eyes out. The second that we locked eyes, I ducked back down and hid under the covers. I wanted to scream and yell and tell all of my friends, but I was so scared that I couldn't even move. I waited under those covers for what felt like hours, until I felt like I was safe, slowly peeking out from the covers again, and I went to go check the window. He was still there. He had moved a bit to the right, but he was still there, staring intently at my window. I didn't even get fully level with the window before I ducked out of sight again and went back under the covers, whimpering. I'm not sure how, but I managed to fall asleep. When I woke up, it was light outside, and all of my friends were happily awaking from their sleep. I woke up and checked the window once again, praying that he was gone. Luckily, he was. I told my friends about it that morning, and they all laughed at me for having a nightmare, and I think I believed it. I forgot it for about 10 years. But when it came back to me 2 weeks ago, I realized that it couldn't have been a dream. Everything was so real. I have very weird dreams. Never having one actually makes sense. My dreams always flow so weirdly, so the absolute consistency is almost proof to me that this actually happened. Also, I specifically remember laying under the covers for ages, something that I doubt would happen in a dream. I have no idea who was outside my window that night, or what he was doing. I just hope that he isn't continuing doing what he was doing, because that look in his eyes told me that whatever he was doing there, he wasn't messing around. I don't know what I saw, but I just wish I had an answer for it.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.